Hey everybody, alright, welcome back for part 2 of my Avengers Endgame review. I had to break it up because otherwise the review would just be so long. So we're going to kind of go over the rest of the movie where it picks up with them finishing the gauntlet and the whole end battle scene, which is like another hour of the movie. So we're going to pick up, so this is going to be part 2 of the Avengers Endgame review. So we pick up with Tony. They've all gotten the 6 Infinity Stones, and Tasha died. Tony's able to make his own gauntlet with the stones, and they're trying to decide who's going to use it to do the snap, to undo the snap. And I feel bad for Thor in this moment because he so desperately wants to be the one to do it because he just feels so guilty and wants to do something good. And, after he failed to beat Thanos, he feels responsible. And so he wants to be the one to make things better. But Bruce says that the radiation is mostly gamma and that it's meant for him to do, which I think is a callback to the first Avengers movie because he and Tony are talking and Tony says, that much radiation should have killed you. And Bruce says something like, are you saying the Hulk saved my life? Okay, well, saved it for what? And I think this is that moment for the Hulk this is why the Hulk was created. And so I think it's a good sort of moment for Bruce to kind of prove to himself as well. And so I really like that. So Hulk snaps, and he succeeds in bringing everybody back. But past Thanos comes to the future because past Nebula was able to replace herself with future Nebula. And so he destroys the Avenger compound. And then we get kind of a cool action scene with Clint running through like the tunnels or something, being chased by these monsters. It actually kind of reminds me of a scene from The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. But I really like that we give Clint something to do. And then he runs into past Nebula, thinking it's future Nebula. And so then we get another great Nebula scene. Again, I love Nebula. Where future Nebula tells past Nebula that they can change. And to me, it's so heartbreaking when past Nebula says, he won't let me. Implying that Thanos really does control her and he's just replaced so much of her, and even if she wanted to change, he won't let her. And that just is like so heartbreaking. Again, Nebula, Karen Gillan is the MVP of this movie. And we also get future Nebula teaming up with past Gamora. Again, that sisterly bond that they sort of started building at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which I really love. And then past Gamora runs into Peter Quill, and she's, like, seriously, him? And I love Nebula's response where she says, your choices were him or a tree? As if Groot was a romantic choice for Gamora. And even Peter Quill's like, what? That to me is really funny. So I do love that. And again, we don't get a whole lot of this past hardened Gamora. But again, we're building off of that sort of sisterly relationship that we started. And I really do like their relationship, Nebula and Gamora. So then we get the big three, Iron Man, Thor, and Cap, taking on Thanos, which I love. I wish we would have got a little bit more of them like trying to work together. Like Iron Man goes out pretty quickly and then Thor goes out pretty quickly, but obviously Cap gets the big fight, which is awesome. And earlier, in a few scenes earlier, past Nebula tells Thanos that the Avengers never suspected anything of her betrayal, and then Thanos says to her, the arrogant never do. And which I think is interesting considering how Tony was able to trick him in the end, and that is Thanos' demise. He thinks of them as arrogant, but really he's just as arrogant as well, because he thinks that just because his destiny was fulfilled, he's kind of immune or something. And so I kind of like that little twist. And I think Thanos is great in this movie. I like this past version of Thanos. He's a very different version of Thanos, but he's still powerful and menacing. And I like to quote his line of, and where did that bring you? Back to me. That's a great line. I like that. So this movie has a lot of great quotes, by the way. So yeah, I really do kind of like this version of Thanos. It's very different. He's more of a villain, whereas in the first one you kind of understood his motivations and they try to make him more sympathetic. Here he's just straight up a villain. So I like that. But then of course we get one of the biggest moments in the MCU history, where Cap gets to wield Mjolnir, and it's awesome. I gotta say, I'm a big Cap fan, but I gotta say, I love Cap with his shield and Mjolnir and fighting Thanos. He's so badass. The Mjolnir and he just makes him so much powerful. He's like throwing the shield and banging Mjolnir off of it and everything. Like, I love it. Cap versus Thanos is great. It's a great fight. If you're a Cap fan, you love it so much. And then when Cap just stands up by himself, his shield's broken. He's gonna go fight Thanos and his army. And this is why I love Steve Rogers as Captain America. This is why he's my favorite superhero. Is moments like that. I will say, like, Thanos' sword, whatever it is, it can break off Cap's vibranium shield, but Stormbreaker, which was forged in the heart of a dying star, can't pierce Thanos' sword. Like, I don't understand the power levels here in this. And you can see Cap's look on Cap's face when the sword pierces his shield. He's like, oh crap, because we were told vibranium's, the most strongest metal on Earth. So what the heck is Thanos' sword made out of? And what is the Stormbreaker made out of if it can't? So anyway, I just wish we had a little bit more of a scale comparison to that. But I love Cap standing up to Thanos. And then we get another great scene. I love it. The on your left and the portal's open and everybody walks through. So you got Black Panther and the Wakanda army. You got Valkyrie and the Asgardians. You have all of the sorcerers. You got everybody that got dusted. Wasp just pops up somewhere. And so it's just such a great moment. Everybody's coming together, and they're all going to fight Thanos. I do wonder, how that all happened. Because, I think Spider-Man even says, we woke up, and Doctor Strange says, we have to go help fight. And everybody seemed to have some magical earpiece in that they can communicate to each other. So did, Doctor Strange, when he got undusted, he just, called on all the sorcerers and said, you have to go gather all these Avengers and give them earpieces. So we got to go open portals to fight Thanos' army. That just kind of is a little weird. I don't know how that happened, but I do love the scene. It's awesome. Everybody coming together to fight Thanos' army. It's great. And then we get Wanda. And I love Wanda. And I love when Wanda says, he says, I don't know who you are. And she says, you will. That's great. She takes on Thanos. And if you want to know how powerful Wanda is, she almost took Thanos out on her own. He had to rain fire in order to stop her. That's how powerful Wanda is. And it's such an awesome moment. And I think that if Wanda and Captain Marvel had teamed up, they probably could have just taken out Thanos on their own. That's how powerful they are. So I love that moment. Wanda's awesome. And then, of course, what we're going to get in WandaVision with her. She's just such a great character. And then I love when Captain Marvel comes in, and takes the ship out. Thanos has got, the rain fire, and then all of a sudden the cannons go to the sky, and Captain Marvel just comes in and takes it all out. It's awesome. Captain Marvel in this moment is great. She, she almost took Thanos out on her own. He had to take the Power Stone out in order to beat her. And so I think if maybe she and Wanda had coordinated a little bit better, they could have taken care of Thanos. And then we get the cool kind of scene where the all-girl team up, the A-Force scene. Although Mantis is there and she looks a little confused, and I'm like, what is Mantis doing here? She's just putting all the army to sleep, I guess. But it's still a really fun scene. Wasp pops up and everything, and so I really like that. Although I do wish Black Widow was there, but that's okay. And also Captain Marvel versus Thanos is great, where Thanos goes to bump her and she just doesn't move, and he's like, holy shit. That's a good moment. And then of course I like where she's, hey Peter Parker. That's a great moment. So I really enjoy what we get of Carol, Captain Marvel in this movie. She's much better used here than she is in her solo movie. So I think she just used great here as this kind of book-ending figure. So I love it. I think she's awesome. And then one thing that is a little curious is Clint asks, what should he do with the gauntlet and the stones? And Cap says, get it out of here. But Bruce insists that they need to get the stones back to their original timelines. But my question is, why is it so urgent that he do that? I mean, I know they want to get it away from Thanos. But, didn't somebody say, well, hey, maybe we can use this to snap away Thanos and take care of him that way? I guess maybe nobody wants to risk their life using it because Bruce used it and it almost destroyed his arm. But I don't know. I just sort of I guess it gives Ant-Man and Wasp something to do until Thanos destroys their van. But I just find it a little weird that Bruce insists that, like, in the middle of this battle, that's what they should be doing. Get those stones out of here. Like, okay, maybe we should focus on this fight first. But it's a minor nitpick, but, that's the focus. But anyway, and then we get a great reunion between Peter Parker and Tony. It's really sweet. Tony gives him a hug, which is sort of a callback to Spider-Man Homecoming, where they're in the car and Peter thinks he's giving him a hug, and Tony says, "No, this is not a hug. I'm just getting the door for you." But now it is a hug, and it's really sweet. And it's I wish we would have got a little bit more of those time of moments with Peter and Tony, because Tony sees a picture of Peter earlier in the movie, and that's what motivates him to do the time travel anyway, because he feels guilty that he lost him. So it's a really touching, sweet moment. And then, sadly, Tony ends up sacrificing himself, and he snaps away Thanos. And he says the classic line, "I am Iron Man." I'm not going to lie, I cry a lot. I cried a lot at Tony's death, and when Pepper says, "You can rest now," that just really gets me emotionally. I think it's really well done. It's really handled well. Tony's making the ultimate sacrifice. There's even a deleted scene where all of the Avengers and heroes take a knee in respect of Tony and his sacrifice, and it completes Tony's character arc since the first Iron Man movie. In the first Avengers movie, Cap says you're never going to be the one to lay your life down on the line for other people, and so Tony has come that far. He is the hero that we all think he is. It's really sad, but it's beautifully well done. And then I like the funeral scene that we get afterward. Everybody's showing up, and we get the proof that Tony Stark has a heart, little thing from the first Iron Man movie. And Clint and Wanda have a nice little moment, and we see the kid from Iron Man 3. He's all grown up, and General Ross is there, Maria Hill's there, Nick Fury's there, Captain Marvel's there. Everybody's attending the funeral, and I just think it's really well done the way they handled Tony in this movie, completing his character arc and making that sacrifice, knowing that he left behind his little girl. So I think it's really beautiful, and it really gets me emotionally every single time. The whole ending of this movie has me crying. And then so Steve wants to go back to return the stones, and then he actually decides to stay in the past with Peggy. And so we get Old Man Steve giving the Captain America shield to Sam Wilson, which will tie into the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show. But really quick, in both Infinity War and Endgame, all Bucky does is shoot a machine gun next to Rocket, and it kind of makes him look less cool, because he has this awesome vibranium arm, and he used it really well in the Captain America movies, and it was really cool. But now he's just shooting guns with his long hair and hanging out with Rocket, and it's kind of oh, Bucky, you're so sad now. But we'll talk more about Sam and Bucky in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show. I think that show does a lot for both of the characters, because Sam doesn't even get hardly anything to do in Infinity War and Endgame either, so they'll get more to do in their own show. And then the movie ends with Steve in the past finally getting that dance with Peggy, and then I cry all over again because I just love them so much. And then we get the coolest end credit scene, pretty much giving credit to anybody that's had a major role in the MCU up until this point. And then we get the special credits with the signature for the original 6 Avengers, and I love it so much. It's just the perfect ending to this saga of the MCU, and considering how Phase 4 turned out, I almost wish Endgame might have been the ending of the MCU, because I just think it's so perfect. It's the best way to go out on these characters. It's a really emotional ending. It's sad. It's joyous. I love it so much, and like I said, I just throughout the whole ending, I'm just crying the whole time until those end credits scene. Just because I feel the emotions, because I love these characters so much and their journeys that they've come on. And if you haven't noticed, I do have the Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame posters hanging above my TV because I love it so much. I would love to get the first 2 Avengers posters as well to just complete the set. But yeah, I love the MCU up until this point at least, and I think this movie was just a great way to bring everything to a conclusion. All of our heroes, we get to see them again. And I really love it so much. So, it's not a perfect movie. I'll say that. There are certainly a few nitpicks that I have. But I think most of us kind of overlook those because we love seeing these characters. We love the fun of it. The end battle was so awesome. I do wish maybe the MCU had handled Hawkeye a little bit better, utilized him a bit more so that we connect with his character more in this movie. But the opening scene kind of brings us up to speed on that and does a decent job. I still wish they didn't kill off Black Widow because I still like her and I think she should have been there leading the A-Force team. And I don't like what they do with Bruce and Hulk in this. I think it just makes his character less interesting. And then also I mentioned in my Ant-Man and the Wasp review, I don't really like what they've done with Scott Lang, making him into this comedic, goofy guy. Here he's used for mostly comedy. Does get a few good moments though. His talk with Tony and reuniting with Cassie and everything. Like when he's making the joke about Die Hard not being a time travel movie, like that's just a bit too much for me. So I prefer they scale back the comedy on Scott Lang. But other than that, there's only, not too many flaws with this movie. I can overlook a lot of it anyway because I'm just having so much fun with these characters and seeing them again and their character arcs. So even though there's a few flaws, I still really love this movie. I think it has a lot of great moments. It's got a lot of great quotes. The character arcs are great. It levels up Nebula to me. Like, she's like one of my favorite characters now. And makes Captain Marvel cool again. And there's just so much good stuff in here. A lot of little Easter eggs that are fun. And, even though I'm crying from when Tony sacrifices himself to the end credit scene, I think it's just a great ending. Steve and Peggy, I love so much. So I just think it's so well done. So I could just go on and on about how much I love this movie. But that's it. That's my long two-parter review for Avengers Endgame. Let me know what you guys all think in the comments. Are you someone that loves it as much as me? Are you someone that thinks it's the least of the Avengers movies? What's your favorite moment? Cap with Mjolnir. I think that's probably the greatest in my opinion, but I also love the Thor stuff. So let me know. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, Avengers Assemble. Bye.